Hello and welcome, I'm your host KB and you're watching the Retrospective.
1, 2, 3, and 4.
Planet of the Apes is a property that I was always aware of growing up, but I just never really knew how big a property it was. I remember seeing the original film on TV as a kid in the 90s, and I did enjoy it, but it was a relic of the past at that point. At least it was in my young mind, with the franchise peaking in popularity in the late 60s and early 70s. There was the failed reboot of the series in 2001 with the movie directed by Tim Burton, which was actually a pretty big deal at the time of its release. Now the reboot isn't terrible, but it's far from great. It did okay at the box office, but wasn't the smash hit that the studio had hoped for. The reviews were mixed, with some praising it for its visual effects, while others looked at it as a soulless cash grab. There would be no sequel following this, and it wasn't until the release of the Andy Serkis trilogy that I myself would fall in love with the franchise. Starting with Rise in 2001, Dawn in 2014, and War in 2017, this trilogy would prove to be a massive hit at the box office, and in my opinion, would go on to be one of, if not the best movie trilogy released in the last few decades. After revisiting the most recent Apes trilogy, I decided I wanted to go back and watch as much of the Apes media as possible, of which there is quite a bit. The original run saw 5 movies released, starting with the groundbreaking Planet of the Apes in 1968 and ending with Battle for the Planet of the Apes in 1973. There was also an animated TV series called Return to the Planet of the Apes, which was released in 1975.
Return to the Planet of the Apes!
Prior to this, and following the release of the 5 original theatrical films, there was a live-action TV series released in 1974, which was also called Planet of the Apes. The live-action series is unique in that it exists somewhat as its own entity. It features an original cast of characters and takes place nearly 900 years earlier than the events depicted in the original 1968 film. The series follows 2 human protagonists in Alan Verdon and Peter Burke, who crash land on planet Earth in the year 3085. In this time, humans still have the ability of speech and don't appear as primitive as humans do in the original films, but they are still subjugated to serve as domesticated slaves to their ape masters. The apes feel that this has always been the way, as the humans are physically and intellectually inferior to them. With Alan and Pete's arrival, this theory is thrown into question specifically by a chimpanzee named Galen, as the two are held for questioning. Following Pete and Alan's escape, Galen is involved in the accidental death of a gorilla lieutenant and is accused of murder and treason. The duo help Galen escape, and the now fugitive trio join forces as they look for means to repair their ship and return to their original timeline. There are a number of antagonists which appear during the series, but the 2 main antagonists are Counselor Zaius and Security Chief Officer Urko. Urko is the aggressive leader of the gorilla army who are dispatched to hunt down the humans. Zaius is an orangutan who works for the Ape Council, and he appears to be inspired by the character Dr. Zaius from the original films, although it's never made clear whether there's a direct connection between the two characters. The storylines were taken quite seriously, at least at the beginning of the series, but I feel that due to the restrictions of being a 4TV production, that the show didn't have quite the grit or edge to it that the original films had. It's been noted that the show was originally intended for an older audience, but early on in production, the ratings revealed that the series was popular with a younger demographic, and thus the producers decided to dial down the more sophisticated tone that the series had started with. Story-wise, it does still deal with some pretty heavy themes, like segregation and bigotry, such as in the episode The Deception, which features a dangerous hooded hate group named the Dragoons, who want to rid their lands of all humans.
As leader of the High Council, I now call the Dragoons to order. If there are no objections, we will not list the grievances voiced by the humans on our last raid. It seems these humans are now dead.
While I love the world and the environments that the apes inhabit, some of my favourite moments from the movies and this series are when they are discovering more about the humans' history, such as in the episode The Trap, where Pete is trapped inside the ruins of an old San Francisco subway station and has to work alongside Urko to escape. During this, Urko is confronted with some unsettling truths as he comes face to face with relics from the past.
Men used to talk to each other, anybody, anywhere, from their own homes.
Show me.
I can't. Nobody'd answer.
You can't because it's not true. It's all lies! Lies! You don't know any more about this than I do! This place is evil! Even the air is bad! I'm tired of all this!
While there were some really solid episodes, critics of the show noted that it was lacking in action and becoming somewhat formulaic, with episodes often focusing on one of our protagonists being captured and the other heroes looking to free them again. We get a solid cast with Ron Harper as Alan and James Norton as Peter, and Mark Leonard, who's most noted for playing Ambassador Sarek in the Star Trek franchise, does an amazing job in the role of Urko.
Are you planning to beat the prisoner again?
If necessary.
You'll kill him.
If necessary.
That's too bad.
You mourn for a human?
No. I mourn for Urko and the strong influence you were becoming in the High Council.
I'm not worried. My influence will continue to grow.
The star of the series, at least in my opinion, is Roddy McDowall, who plays the role of Galen. This would be his third ape role, having played Cornelius and Caesar in 4 of the 5 original films.
Are you planning to include me in on this trip back to Tryon?
Well, yes, I figured... I hoped we would stay together.
But we have just been through all that! But just because that girl is in love with you, should I risk my life by going back there?
No. There's no reason at all for that.
Huh? And should you risk your lives by going back there? But you stubbornly insist upon doing it, don't you? Oh, I am getting to be no better than a human. Come on, let's go.
The series had a decent budget for the time, with most of that going towards the costuming and makeup effects. Visually, I feel the show looks good and is what you'd expect from a television adaptation of a big budget film franchise. While the ape makeup has definitely aged, At the time the series was released, and with 5 movies of experience behind them, I feel the makeup team had somewhat mastered these particular effects by that point. The theme for the series, while not as grand or iconic as Jerry Goldsmith's original score, it does fit nicely alongside a pretty cool intro sequence. Despite the franchise's proven success and the series showing some early signs of promise, the quality of the episodes dipped, as did the ratings, and unfortunately the series was ultimately cancelled after only 14 episodes. Episodes of the series were re-edited and repackaged into 5 4TV movies, which were released in 1980. Interestingly enough, they would feature introductions by Roddy McDowall playing an older Galen in what would be his final appearance with the franchise. Apparently, these repurposed segments were filmed a few years earlier in 1976 and intended as bumpers to air alongside reruns of the series. The entire series has been released on DVD and is definitely worth checking out if you are a fan of the franchise. Once again, thank you very much for watching, especially to those of you that watch all the way to the end of the episode. If you'd like to show your support, please hit like, subscribe to the channel, and check out some of my older content. And as always, I'll catch you guys next time.